Hello, 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 fellow truth seekers. So, my name is Carrie. I'm here to dissect the Stephen Avery case with you, discuss key points from the first season, the second season, and possible people who actually might have done it too. So, let's get right into it. First thing I want to tell you is that I have watched both seasons of it multiple times. I've read the 220-page Catherine Zellner appellant case. I have listened to the full Brendan Dassey confession, although I will not be talking about Brendan Dassey today. That's for a later time. And I also have looked through all of the case files for Stephen Avery. I know about his criminal history for those who are like, oh my God, she doesn't know. I do know, and I'm well aware of it. I have a background in psychology, I have a bachelor's, and then I also am going to school for my graduate degree. I am about a year and a half from licensure, but I haven't done any clinicals yet. So this is merely my opinion. This has nothing to do with my professional background. This is just a hobby, and I just want to let you guys know that. So that being said, let's talk about the evidence that they have right now. The evidence that convicted Stephen Avery was the bullet, the knife, the car, the blood in the car, and then, of course, the bones that they found on his property. So what is wrong with those key aspects, those key points of it? Well, the DNA on the bullet was supposedly Teresa Hallbuck's. They said that it went through her skull. Now, for anybody that knows anything about a .22 rifle, it is rather difficult to make it go through the skull. A lot of people will disagree unless it's held up directly to the skull. They did multiple tests in the second season, and they stated that they did not find bone fragment in that bullet, but rather they found wood, which is consistent with a rural area that would usually have fun and shoot guns in a, car yard. And then they found chapstick that was provided by Ryan Hilgis, which we'll talk about later. Okay, so now the knife. The knife had absolutely no blood on it whatsoever. None. People argue that he cleaned it. I can't really say otherwise. I don't think I'm pretty sure they tested for bleach, but who knows? So that being said, the rocks that they collected at his residence did test positive for blood, just not human blood. So, it's probably deer blood because they seem to be hunters, So, and then the blood in various places of the RAV4, you had the blood on the ignition thing, you had the blood on the CD case, and you had the blood, I do believe, like on a door latch in the interior, I think is where it was. So you had those areas in there. That is where that came from. So, and then the car was found on his property. But the weird thing is one thing I don't think that they mentioned in the documentary was that, and they might have, I don't know, it's been a while since I watched the full first season. I just briefly skimmed it, but the license plate was found in a separate vehicle through a window. It was weird. But I guess it would make sense if you were trying to hide a vehicle, so who knows. Anyway, so that being said, they also convicted him because of the key. The key was found inside of his house several days after the search had already gone through. I think they did 6 sweeps, and then they finally found it underneath porn, supposedly. They moved a thing of porn, and then it fell out of the bookcase, and there it was on the floor. So we have that. But they used a pap smear slide to analyze this these couple of shards of charred body, and yeah, the DNA markers did hit in certain areas and made it to where it was enough to say yes, that's Teresa more than likely. And but that's all they found. They didn't find anything else. Where's her head or torso, everything like that. They found a couple more bones, but it wasn't enough to definitely make up a whole body. And I know that when you get cremated and things like that, your body will dissipate, but they didn't have anything that could do that in that extent, in that period of time. Like, the burn pit would not have done that. They tested that theory. The air's too open. You would have to have done, it wouldn't have done it in the time that they needed it to. In the time that Brendan Dassey even confessed that the fire was burning, or that they stated that the fire was burning. It just wouldn't work. Even the season 2 guy said that you would have needed to do it in a burn barrel, which, yes, they found pieces of stuff in the burn barrel, but we'll talk about that later. Okay, so the new evidence that's found, okay? The key that they used, well, it's not new evidence, it's the reanalyzed old evidence with a little bit of a twist. So the key that they found had no blood on it. It had none of Steve's blood on it. So I do have a critique of Miss Awesome Kathleen Zellner here. So she did that test with the ignition, and I only have this critique because you have those people who think that Stephen Avery's guilty, and it makes sense here that their point makes sense. If he was getting into her car, he's never driven her car. It's late at night. He's using the keys, trying to find the ignition. Maybe he had something to drink, because why would you murder somebody sober? Unless you were a real psychopath, and he's turning the key and he can't find it, and then maybe his hand would hit it. Most of the time, what it looked like is that the guy got in the car and he just turned the key, and he turned it in multiple ways, and that's why his knuckle couldn't graze the ignition thing right. I don't know. That's a critique, but I can see where they're coming from, especially it being dimly lit and trying to find the key in there. Sometimes I even struggle finding the key when I get in the car at my school, so in the nighttime. And I drove my car like a billion times. So there's that. Okay, and then I wanted to point out the lack of DNA, of her DNA in the car. They had to use a pap smear, slide. Where is her hair? Women, I know she had short hair, but women, we've got things all over the place. We've got a brush in the car. She's taking pictures for people. She's on the road all the time. She had to have something in the car. It just doesn't make sense to me. Being a woman, I just feel like maybe a deodorant stick, something, something would, I don't know. There was a water bottle in the car. They could have gotten her DNA from that, but I don't know. Who knows? So you have that. One of the pieces of evidence that they had submitted that really struck me really weird was that they had taken a picture of the aluminum smelter boiler thing that's on the property. I'm assuming it's pretty much just a big thing that melts down cars. So why would he burn the body in a pit when you have that access to that? It just makes no sense to me. None whatsoever. And I know that a lot of people will say, oh, it's intelligence level. Well, if you go off of intelligence level, then you kind of discredit Brendan Dassey's confession, because at one point in the confession, he specifically states that him and Stephen says, let's just crunch the car. And he goes, oh, wait, no. There'll be a lot of DNA evidence everywhere, so you can't do that. Well, if he's smart enough to know that there's going to be DNA evidence everywhere, then why wouldn't he know that if it melts a car, it just doesn't make sense to me there. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. That's what you guys are here for. That's why I'm talking to you. So there's that. I want to talk about the hood latch DNA too. So alone, the fact that they waited 4 months to do this just astounds me. Okay, 4 friggin' months. Upon testing with the Zellner trials, she did multiple people. Okay, because there's a theory out there that people secrete more DNA or whatever. It's not true. I might shed more hair than somebody, but my hair does not contain more DNA than my husband's hair. It's just, it doesn't. That's not gonna happen. So, yeah. I don't know about that, but maybe because I bleached it might have less, who knows, but I highly doubt that. So anyway, those baselines that they tested the saliva on the hood latch, that DNA spiked to 0.74 was the highest. I think 0.61 was the lowest amount of DNA that they could find. His was 1.81. That is insane. That is 3 times the amount that they found on the other people. I don't think you, even if you're a secretor, you could secrete that much. So, I mean, maybe I'm going to go with the theory that they said. It makes sense to me. They took a groin swab and they swapped it out. They labeled it differently. It makes sense. That would have so much more DNA on it. And I mean, if he's just opening the hood quickly and he's not like sitting his head up there. I mean, they didn't even test they didn't test the prop, the hood prop. They didn't do that. And it's just astounding to me. But it took 4 months to do that. So, and then you had the damage on Teresa's car. The damage on Teresa's car makes no sense to me. Like a lot of this apparently. But, okay, so you've got this headlight missing. It looks like it's fresh. Not, like, from the pictures and everything. Why would you put the headlight in the back of the car? If she would have taken a insurance settlement to fix the headlight and then use the check to, you know, spend whatever, why would she put it in the back of her car? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. But that's what was given to police. So that's what they gotta, you know, they gotta know. So the blood in the sink theory was another thing that Kathleen Zellner did. Now, this one is a little far-fetched for me because given the fact that, you know, who she implicates in there, I just don't see it possible. I do see possible them maybe getting the blood from his Grand Dam because he did have blood in his Grand Dam. That's in the evidence photos. So that is a possibility. But getting, okay, so the theory is, if you haven't watched it and you are watching this for some reason, so I ruined it for you, that they scraped the sink, the dried blood out of the sink from his arm cut, because obviously he's filthy and doesn't clean his house ever, I don't know. But they scrape it out and then they dilute it again and then they put it in the car. Now, she tested this theory and it did work. However, she used a lot of blood. I just want to point that out. It was a lot. People will say, oh, it was in a vial, it's used, blah, blah, blah. We get blood transfusions from bagged blood. It's not going to matter if it was in a vial or not, but it is worth noting that she used a lot. Now, could he have bled that much? Maybe. I don't know. Okay, now I get to go on to the burn barrels. So the burn barrels are interesting because of the fact that they had already sifted through these things thoroughly, okay? They didn't find anything until November 8th when they finally found some of the remains in the pit, and then they found them again, like other ones, in the burn barrel. But the ones in the burn barrel were bigger than the ones in the pit, and I believe that's also when they found the electronics in the burn barrel as well. But so you're telling me that you could easily walk by a pit, you could find it, point it out, and then, but you couldn't sift through a burn barrel and see that? I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it's the same lab tech that contaminated the bullet. Who knows? Anyway, so then you have that. You also have this new witness that's a little bit controversial. They don't say his name in the documentary. Somewhere on Reddit it says his name. It's on my post. But because somebody had commented about this, and that's what really made me look more in depth in this. And he claims that he saw Teresa's car, or one that looked identical to it, in the cul-de-sac up the road by Cuss Road. In like the turnaround area facing in towards the woods. The interesting aspect of this would be right where the scent dogs alerted on an area where it appeared to be a burial site. Now, it was somewhat dug up and there was a tarp there, or well, something that looked like a tarp. But Colburn insisted that it was not a burial site. You know, because he knows all about that, apparently, like everything, and everybody believes him. So instead of getting anything tested, they're just like, oh, Colburn knows better, because, you know, he reports everything. Like the car. Because as soon as the guy saw that, he drove to the, I think it's like a truck stop or a gas station or something down the road. He said that he recognized Colburn from the documentary. He went in there, tried to tell him that it is the car, and Colburn never alerted police. didn't mention it. Now, people say that it wasn't Colburn. He wasn't on duty. It was somebody else. This guy has beef with Colburn because he arrested him for drinking. That's, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know the guy. I don't. So that speaks to the credibility of the witness, but I really feel like if he wasn't credible or if he had a reason to lie, I feel like Kathleen Zellner would figure it out. Like, why would she jeopardize a case around somebody random who just came out? Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense. Anyway.